Good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock on Thursday, December 9th. This is a meeting of the Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Board of Education. The meeting in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It's not to be considered a public community meeting, but there is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated on the agenda. Mr. Wagner, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Carpenter?
Here.
Mrs. Dorn?
Here.
Mr. Kinsey?
Present.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Mrs. Slaughter?
Here.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Voice is down. All right, Mr. Lang, would you please read the Pritchard?
Yes, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the November 6th and the November 11th meetings?
So moved.
Mrs. Dorn?
Second.
Mr. Kinsey?
Co-Curricular, I can't vote on the November 11th ones, but it's lumped together with November 6th and November 11th. I wasn't present on November 11th.
Thank you. All right, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorn?
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Abstain.
And Mrs. Slaughter?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Can I get a motion to approve the financial report effective November 30, 2021 is included with the agenda?
So moved.
Mrs. Dorn? And a second?
Second.
Mr. Kinsey?
I really don't have anything special about the financial report to point out. Is there anything you saw you wanted to ask about? We're holding at about the same percentages, salaries and wages for expenditures and for state versus local revenues. About 26% for state and federal revenues. The remainder local.
It didn't seem to be anything unusual at all. All right, then please call the roll.
Okay, Mrs. Dorn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Slaughter,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes. Motion passes.
Taking a motion to approve the tax rates set by the Green County Budget Commission at 4.31 mils for bond and 4.80 mils for the emergency levy.
Is there a motion? Mrs. Hoffman?
Second.
Mrs. Dorn?
Just a note that these rates are set by the Green County Auditor, Treasurer, and Prosecuting Attorney as forming the Budget Commission. And the 4.31 mils is what is set for them to charge against our property tax values so that the yield will be enough to pay the principal and interest on the bond issue passed in 2004. And then the 4.8 mils is a tenth of a mil lower than we estimated on the levy that was passed in May, I believe. So that's good news. It's a little lower than we thought it was going to be.
Right.
The property values are a little higher, and the millage can be lower to yield the amount for the purpose of it.
Right. Any other motion on that? Any questions or comments? All right, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Slaughter,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. Dorn.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the last one that I have is that I need a resolution or a motion to approve two then announced certificates. One to Securely for $6,600 for student email and document scanning and filtering. And the hand carry is the other one to Scholastic for $3,615.66 for book fair purchases. These were two that were over $3,000 where the PO is not secure ahead of the commitment to make the purchase. So we have to pass it in and out certificate to approve that purchase. According to the auditor.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Dorn, Mrs. Hoffman,
Can I just ask for a little bit of more information on this one? Can I assume that have we used security in the past or something similar? And for how long? Is it comparable to what it's been? Or something like
Yeah, this was just a bookkeeping error on my part. I thought I had it on my regular schedule and I missed it. So this is our third or fourth year with Securely. There's no change to the service. I just goofed and didn't get my PO in July. So,
that? Appreciate it.
sorry.
Thanks.
all right, any other questions or comments? All right, please call the roll.
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. Dorn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, correspondence. Did anyone get correspondence that they would share with the rest of the board? You did a really nice thank you note today. That's very good, and very much appreciated. Any others? All right. We go on to good news recognition.
First of all, we have for the Bellbrook High School boys soccer, they were the district runner-up. Is our coach here, Michael Crane? Any of the boys soccer players? Okay. All right, and I understand the coach is not here this evening, but the Bellbrook High School football 2021 SWBL champions and regional runner-up. So congratulations to them. We have some team players here. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations. Which way the gentleman is going to take? All right. Good. Thank you very much. We also have a retirement, a staff member in the district, Deb Tomlin, Central Office Secretary to Preschool and Special Education for 22 years. Deb started in the district when she had worked in real estate for over 20 years and had no experience in the field of education, but she's grown and helped manage the Office of Special Services and maintaining student records and developing a cooperative relationship with the district intervention specialists and special needs assistants. So she will definitely be missed. Deb? You want to say anything?
To the young kids especially, think about where you are in life right now because it goes really fast. Really fast. All these older ones up here will confirm that. So, thank you.
Thank you. And also for, this is the last regular board meeting, Virginia Sloughman has been on the school board for 4 years. And I must say that it has been such a delight to serve with you, partner with you. It's just been a real blessing, so please. Again, thank you for your service to the district.
All right, before we get to reports to the board, if there are those who are here for some of the presentations and feel like you have other places you need to be instead, if you're doing this, probably a lot of real excitement. Good evening, board members, community members, staff, and friends of Bellbrook-Sugarcreek Schools. I'm Donnie Phelps. I am the principal here at Belle Creek Intermediate. And as much as we could say last year was a year like no other, I think this year has maybe topped that a little bit. It's hard to believe that we're at the end of the first semester. Lots of new things here at Belle Creek, including me in this position. We've overcome a lot of things. We've surmounted a lot of obstacles, and I think we're starting to come out on the other side with a much more regulated routine, and things are going really well. So I'm very excited to host everyone here this evening at our school and present about educating the whole child and what that means at Belle Creek Intermediate. What exactly is whole child education? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It is wraparound services that serve kids academically, socially, emotionally, behaviorally, physical and mental health as well, and also most new to the gamut of services that we can provide is support for parents. It's part of our district's strategic plan where we are looking to better implement multi-tiered systems of supports, which is not a new thing in education. It's going to be a more formalized process for us. So it's kind of a good problem to have. It means that by and large, we have had students who come ready to learn from families who support education, whose needs are well met, and they come regulated and ready for school. Unfortunately, by the very definition of pandemic, every single child and every person around the world has been impacted by the last some 18 plus months of trauma. And as a result, when we have the needs and we need to support them to best do that efficiently and effectively, we have to look at systematizing how we do that. And the MTSS framework, that so many other schools with higher needs than ours prior to the pandemic have been doing, is exactly what we need. So that is the direction we're going per our alignment in the district strategic plan. To help people who are non-educators to really understand what this means, I recently heard of this metaphor of a table. And I'm sure if you are like me, you probably remember being a child and doing homework maybe at a kitchen table. And so the academics sit on top of the table, that's your workspace. But if you have a three-legged table, it's awfully hard to keep the academics on top and focus because they'll slide off. Even worse if you have a two-legged table, and much worse if you only have a one-legged table or no legs, because the legs represent the social skills that kids need to navigate an academic environment and find success. Also emotional regulation, being able to control one's emotions and their responses to environmental stimuli, and being able to navigate between their upstairs executive functioning brain and their downstairs emotional brain, and dealing with expected events versus unexpected events. And that's what some of the teachers that are here with me tonight will be talking about in just a little bit. Mental health is certainly a hot topic in society. It's been an issue on the rise, and as you might expect, it even influences young people, especially young people who are developmentally fragile, and especially at these years. Also, behavioral health then becomes another aspect of being able to support kids and really succeeding in the fundamental mission of our school, which is, of course, to get an education, a first-class education, I think, and be prepared for the 21st century in colleges and careers beyond here. So readiness for learning just isn't as high as it used to be, and the role of educators, therefore, is not what it used to be. And I think we're all finding that part of what we have to do is create stability. Not to say that we don't have stability, but we have to intentionally and overtly create that stability in classrooms for individual students. So who are we at Belle Creek? This is in the image of the district's plan. What is the portrait of the Bellbrook High School graduate? For us, we're looking at that trajectory, and that's the ultimate goal of every school district, is to graduate students and get them through school successfully, have them prepared for what lies beyond for a successful life. But it's no different for us here. With our third, fourth, and fifth graders, we need them to be prepared for middle school. So the portrait of a rising sixth grader really revolves around the building blocks of how we do business here, which is our Pbis, or Positive Behavior Intervention Support System, where we have our students taught to be respectful, responsible, peaceful, and problem solving. And ultimately,
We want them to be global citizens, lifelong learners, and goal-oriented people who have all of the skills and the table legs to support them in reaching all of those goals. In order to do that, in a building with, I think the last count I had on the principal's enrollment report was 609 students, and something like 67 faculty members and staff members. That's kind of a big job for one person, especially in these times where the needs are a little higher than they might have been a couple of years ago. So I think it's very important as the lead learner to distribute leadership, to build leadership capacity in other people, because leadership is truly behavior and it's not a person. While I may be the person in that official role, there are many talented people who know things that I don't know and have other gifts to bring to the table, and we're trying to bolster and hone those traits in our staff and empower people to lead in their own capacities. So we have a distributed leadership model, and I know this looks complicated, but this is truly the roster for all of our different teams. And these teams do meet monthly, and where we are currently at Belle Creek, our schedule is a little bit different because we are kind of locked around some transportation times. And so our teachers walk in with their students, they walk out with their students. So I think it's very important for me to know that these people give of their own time outside of their contracted hours to meet with me in order to move our initiatives and our goals in this building forward. So we have our strategic plan committees at the building level that we usually do with our PD days. That's not something that happens after school, but our building leadership team, we get together and we focus on our data, our state report card data, testing data, making decisions for language arts and mathematics. We have our PBIS group who is making decisions for our building, for our student behaviors, and how our positive behavior incentive support system works. We have the RAC group, which is writing and reading across the curriculum, because we have a fundamental belief that literacy is the foundation of all of learning, and we have to hone that in all of those other content areas. Everybody is a reading teacher and a writing teacher. The CAVITY group is curriculum assessment for vertical teaming. That is because in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, the disparity in the development of students as well as our curriculum is very large. So being able to look at that vertically, what's happening in language arts, math, science, and social studies in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade is a really important task. So that we fill all those gaps and have kids prepared for the next level. We also have an interview panel that includes also our classified staff members, because they all contribute to our building culture, and it's really important that we have all of those voices and opinions at the table when we're selecting other people to add to our staff family. And coming soon, our BLT just decided this month that social emotional learning and our morning meeting initiative is so large it can be its own committee. So we're going to be forming a steering committee for that. I've included for the board members in here just the goals of each of these teams. That's on the next slide. And we're going to kind of then move right on through all of the legs of that table. So the first one is we're going to talk about the social supports and what kind of social supports we offer here for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. So it is my great pleasure to introduce you to 5th grade teacher, Mr. Scott Anderson. He does so much to connect our community here.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good evening. My name is Scott Anderson, and I'm a 5th grade teacher here at Belle Creek. And this school year, BCI, we were blessed to get back to having some amazing school events after having taken a year off last year due to COVID. But first event I would like to mention happened on Wednesday, October the 20th, and it was the 4th annual BCI Great Pumpkin Auction. Each year we ask parents and students of 5th graders to donate and decorate real and fake pumpkins that we auction off in our gymnasium at a live auction. Most years we've had between 60 to 70 pumpkins donated and auctioned. You can see up there the pictures, some of the really cool pumpkins that we have this year. We began this tradition at Belle Creek in 2017, and in that year we chose the charity A Special Wish, which is out of Dayton. And A Special Wish is housed at Children's Hospital there in Dayton, and they grant wishes for terminally ill children that live in the Dayton area. In each of the first 3 years that we had our pumpkin auction, we raised just over $4,000 a year, which is nearly enough to grant a child a wish to go to Disney World and their whole family. But this year, we had an absolutely amazing evening. We started the auction off with a foam pumpkin that looked like it had been made into a cheeseburger. It even had fake sesame seeds at one time. A $25 gift card to a hamburger restaurant had been attached to that as well. And so it's a live auction with a professional auctioneer that volunteers this evening. So we started the bidding, and the first pumpkin of the night brought $1,700. And that kind of set the tone. We were all amazed. I mean, I think my jaw was on the floor for that first bid. But by the end of the night, we had raised over $12,700 for terminally ill children. Such a fun night to get the community out there. It's a live auction, so it's just if you're into an auction and you enjoy them, they're a lot of fun. I was blown away by the generosity of the community this year, so we look forward to that every year, and we're so thankful that we got to have that again. About 2 weeks after that great event, we hosted our 4th annual Veterans Day celebration. 5th grade students and our military students were asked to invite veterans that they knew to come to Belle Creek on Friday morning, November the 12th. The day started with the Heroes Parade throughout the hallways of our school. All of the 3rd and 4th grade students lined the outside hallways, waving American flags and holding signs and said, "Thank you for your service," to our veterans as they walked through the middle of the hall while patriotic music played overhead. Earlier that week, the students had decorated the hallways to make the school show its pride for our men and women of the armed forces. After a couple laps around the hall, the veterans and their families entered the gymnasium, where they were greeted by a standing ovation from the 5th grade students that were waiting in the bleachers. The veterans and the students that invited them took their seats in chairs on the gym floor, and the Bellbrook High School JROTC came to Belle Creek and presented the colors as everyone sang the national anthem. They also did a flag folding ceremony, and the day ended with all of the veterans and their families getting their pictures taken using a student handmade American flag as the backdrop. These pictures were developed over the weekend and multiple copies were given to each student so that they and their loved ones and their friends could have a memento to cherish from Belle Creek. All veterans also received a breakfast to go box courtesy of Sodexo. Another event we will be having later this year is the 13th annual Belle Creek Intermediate Geography Week. 5th grade students just this week finished taking a preliminary test that we've been using for years, and the top 20 to 25 students from the preliminary test get to participate in the actual bee. The bee is scheduled to take place sometime in February, and the qualifying participants will be notified in the next week or so. Here is the plaque that we've hung up in our school. As you see, it's full, so I have to go out and find a new plaque. It's a perpetual plaque. We have 12 names. I was asking some of the young men that were here for the football team, so which class are you? And one of the boys says, "I got 3rd in that one." So he remembered it very much. The final event I'd like to mention has become a Belle Creek tradition here in the community for over 20 years, and that's the Beach Bash. The Beach Bash is an event that's held the last day of school, and as Donnie said a little bit ago, with kind of like graduating into the 6th grade, that's kind of what the Beach Bash is all about. It's a day where our 5th graders, on the last day of school before they leave elementary school age and head to the middle school, we have a full day full of fun activities for them, games, and it's a memory that if you ask most kids in high school or even out of high school, what do you remember about 5th grade? That's usually one that definitely comes up every time. The young students know about it, they talk about it, and they look forward to their turn to have it. These are just a couple of the wonderful things going on outside of the classroom here at Belle Creek, and trying to get our community more involved in what we do here at school. I know a few of you were at our pumpkin auction. I know a few of you were at our Veterans Day celebration, and we truly appreciate all the support from the board. We hope to continue these wonderful events in the future, and we hope that all of you can and will at some time down the road too. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. He works tirelessly to plan all that stuff, and did all the logistics, and so we appreciate him very much. In addition to those activities, we also have some co-curricular activities I just wanted to mention really quickly. You might not know about, we have after-school bowling program that happens every Tuesday each semester. We've got a science fair going on, and that's a member of the community that's partnered with some teachers to lead that. That's been going on here for years after an online version hiatus last year. The math pentathlon is happening with an advisor, a parent, but also a high school teacher, as well as a fifth grade teacher, Amanda Hove. And that's just adding to curricular options for students. We also, something that was new to me as an elementary school principal, is the partnership with the civic areas in the community, specifically our fire department. They come in and they do quite a presentation with fire safety and have a couple contests going with quiz, bowl sort of thing, plus a coloring contest. Some students got a special escort ride in a fire engine to school one day, which I thought was pretty great. Also, one class was selected to go down and go through a presentation of how the fire department works and how the jaws of life work in an accident with paramedics. And Sergeant Narker there does a phenomenal job interacting and taking on that role as a teacher. We've had some other pretty neat things go on. Mrs. Main's fourth grade class was selected recently as the class of the game at the Flyers game last week, so that's a fun event to bring at least one classroom together. I think she got 60 tickets, and every student but one was able to attend with a parent or guardian, so that's great. We also, of course, have our PTO. We have various other classroom level co-curricular things going on where teachers invite families in to see what's happening with their curriculum and their projects and things like that. And coming soon, I plan to initiate a principal's parent advisory committee because we all know that best practices communication should be 2 ways instead of 1 way, but I've been a little busy, so maybe this next semester we can kick it up a notch. Moving on to a little bit more in the same area is what we do with our students with exceptionalities. We offer a wide range of services to meet a lot of different needs. We have reading club in the 3rd grade to help our students reach their reading goals to get up to 3rd grade reading level and beyond. We have English as a second language learning happening for our students who come to us not already speaking English as their first language. We have speech and language therapy, work studies programs for our students with more severe needs to learn life skills. The snack cart is a really popular one there where teachers and staff pay a certain amount of money per semester. They write down their favorite snacks, and those students make a delivery once a week for a little Friday pick-me-up. We have our different levels of resource rooms for students who have a little bit more intensive needs and need to be pulled out of general education settings to get some special service. We have occupational therapy, physical therapy, adaptive physical education, also vision and hearing services. And work study, that's a great example. That's Joaquin there. He's fantastic. He's staff, our stocks, all of Mrs. Malice's sanitation stations, and we have all kinds of stuff in there. Band-Aids, Kleenex, everything. He takes care of that every day and keeps those up and running for students at various points in our hallways. Our supported peers. This is a new program this year, and I would like to invite my friend and former colleague from the high school, Mrs. Tess Rivero, to talk about this. She is the advisor, as well as Mrs. Debbie Prince.
Tess Rivero, I'm one of the advisors for supportive peers at high school. The kids are going to do most of the talking. This is Maddie McConnell, she's a senior. Sam Borsch, senior. Daphne Dean, junior, and Emma DeWeese, junior. And side note, Emma is the supportive peer for my son Danny, who's in 3rd grade.
Bellbrook Supportive Peers is geared towards promoting authentic relationships and inclusivity between Bellbrook High School students and students within the district's special education program. Currently, there are 19 peers, juniors and seniors, who are paired with another district student. We also have 3 new peers at the preschool to help in the classrooms.
In early June, we had a 3-day training On the first day, we had our guest speakers come and talk to us about different disabilities, how we work with them. We shared personal stories about disabilities, how they affected us. We also took an oath dedicating ourselves to our peers. On the second and third day, our peers were brought in. We played games, did crafts, and got to know them. Since then, we've been with our peers 3 or 4 days a week, and we have had get-togethers throughout the school year. So this is very impactful to me because I'm on the autism spectrum. So I just really want to help students out also. So it's really a great program.
I'm going to be talking about our typical day, what we do with peers. Unfortunately, AC can't be here tonight, but she gets to sit through math and lunch with her peer, and she helps them with their math and math homework. And then that young peer comes over to BCI around recess, and she plays with her peer during recess and stays for a little bit of special. And this program is very important to me because my brother also has autism, and he's in this program too. So.
And then I'm going to be elaborating on what Sam said about the impact. As Mrs. Rivera said, I work with Danny, and I have noticed an incredible impact on both me and my peer. Before this school year, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. As soon as I started working with my peer, Danny, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. Coming to BCI every day and working with Danny is the highlight of my day. From the start of the year to now, the amount of growth I have seen from Danny is incredible. It's a privilege to watch him develop relationships with his peers and gain confidence throughout his school year. I am so beyond grateful for the relationship I have developed with my peer and the community supportive peers has created for me and many others. I'm just going to add one more thing, we have about 24 high school students, like these guys, and they go to preschool, Stephen Belle Creek Middle School, High School, and they absolutely amaze me. Without exception, all of them are taking either college courses and AP courses, all sorts of different things. They're in basketball, soccer, part-time jobs, you name it. They're really busy. But they volunteer their time to do this every day. It's amazing. They're incredibly powerful and essential contributors to not just our school, but our community. I'm really proud of them, and I'm grateful for their service and honored to work with them. And now they all have to go home and do their math homework.
Hey, just a quick comment here. My daughter, Michelle, when she was in high school, she participated in this, and then as you were talking, it influenced her career choice after that. So she went to UC, Claremont County, got an occupational therapy assistant degree, which is now, after having worked at it for a couple, 3 years, 4 or 5 years, whatever it was, she's now going on. She's in the Master's Public Health program at Harvard. And so it really significantly impacted her. She has a big heart to start with, and that gave her a way of, demonstrating and manifesting and learning from it. So I think this is a wonderful thing that y'all do. So feel good about it, and it really does matter. And so thank you very much.
This will take us to the next leg of that table, emotional supports. This is one of my absolute favorites, and I'm going to be brief because I know that these ladies have a lot to say about what's going on in our building. I was a teacher who ran a very trauma-informed, inclusive classroom with a co-teaching inclusion model, and I can remember very back at the very beginning of my career as a Spanish teacher elsewhere, I went and asked, where are the students' IEPs? And they said, oh, we don't put students with special needs in Spanish classes. And I was like, that's a perfect place for students with special needs, especially in high school, who have gone through their whole lives feeling stigmatized that they're not good at reading or writing or whatever, and they come into a level 1 language class and they're equal with everyone else. Right next to the valedictorian, they're learning from the very beginning. They have just the future valedictorian, I should say. Yeah, they're learning from the very beginning, hola, como estás, and that kind of thing. So I've always been very passionate about our just an inclusive, well-rounded classroom to support all students' needs. So this is my favorite thing that we have going on here, and this is directly related to the state mandate for social emotional learning standards, which you'll see on the next slide. These came out about 10 years ago. And it's one of those unfunded state mandates that you always hear people talking about in education. And the 5 competencies are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making. All of these are very hard to reach, especially if you go back to March 2020, when people like on a dime went and were online and interfacing through computers and distance from people, and the need in these areas has increased ever since. That is clickable, the image there. It's a one-pager, so it's nice and succinct for any board members or community members who are interested in that. It explains in each of those areas what it is that a student is supposed to learn, K to 12, relative to those competencies. So with that, we have instituted a morning meeting time. It's a sacred time, 30 minutes every single day. We start our day off with students and their homeroom teachers, where they're getting regulated and they're learning about these 5 competencies. And I'm going to bring up the experts, the people who are doing this. So I would very much like to introduce you to 3rd grade teacher, this is Lindsay Hamby, and 5th grade teacher, this is Debbie Bobby.
Good evening. I'm normally used to talking in front of children, not adults, so bear with me here. I have been implementing a program this year called the Zones of Regulation, and it is a self-regulation model that helps kids start to understand their feelings, how to regulate their feelings, and how their feelings and actions can impact others around them. So the goal of the zones is for those kids to be able to identify and to self-regulate. And so we do a few lessons a week. And so it's broken up into different colors. And then within those colors, there are emotional states, depending on, if you're in the red zone, you're obviously angry, maybe out of control, blue zone, sad, tired. So we really correlate the colors to the feelings. Can you go next slide? Thank you so much. So this next slide just kind of shows things that we have worked on so far. Like I said, color coding the zones, identifying feelings associated with each zone. We've been doing this through crafts, videos, read-alouds, and discussion. We have also introduced common language, such as expected and unexpected behaviors related to those feelings, having comfortable or uncomfortable thoughts, how your actions impact how other people feel and what they think, as well as using I feel statements. If you are mad, angry, frustrated, those are all appropriate feelings, but the way we express them is what we want to work on with our students. And it is natural for us to experience all of the zones. We sometimes look at a student who is having an emotional outburst, and we want them to not act that way. But I think it's important for us to help our students understand that all emotions are okay. As adults, we feel every emotion. So we should not expect our students to be what we would call in the green zone, which is happy, ready to learn at every given point during the day. That's just not realistic. So our job and what we've been working on is for them to identify, I'm frustrated, what can I do to calm down? What can I do to make sure that I'm in my best learning space? And things that we're going to target next are identifying our personal triggers. We all know things that kind of push our own buttons, and we as adults try to avoid those triggers. So helping students identify what those are for them, as well as identifying size of problem versus size of reaction. If any of you have kids, I'm sure there's been a very small problem and they've had a very large reaction. So making sure that they understand that a small problem should have a small reaction, and a big problem, it's okay to have a bigger reaction. And then eventually we are going to work on building our toolbox with strategies to help us self-regulate. So if a student realizes they're in their yellow zone, they have a yellow zone toolbox that they can reference. This is what I can do. I can take a break, I can ask to take a walk, I can use a fidget toy, I can ask for a hug, things that they know work for them to kind of self-regulate back to a more comfortable zone. And then the next slide, it just shows, this is not related to the zones of regulation, but this is an activity my class did this week, actually. we talked about the circle of control. And this was actually not planned, but I had some students who were having very emotional reactions to things that weren't in their control, as in indoor recess, yelling, I don't want indoor recess. I'm like, well, it's not in your control, so there's no need to have this type of reaction. So we started talking about our inner circle in our control versus our outer circle, which is out of our control. So we did some cut and paste activities with emojis, which throwing emojis into a lesson in third graders are beyond happy. So just identifying what those in control and out of control situations might be for them. And then followed up with a themed activity for the holidays on the next slide was ELF, or self-control, where they filled in their own in control and out of control circle and turned it into a fun holiday craft while we listened to Christmas music and had a fire on our button touch. And so they really enjoyed that, and my students have started to say to me, like, I think I'm in my yellow zone, or one of my students the other day said, I'm upset about this, but I know it's out of my control, so I'm gonna try and calm down. And the fact that my students are recognizing that, I think is amazing. You know, they still need to work on the practical application out in the real world, but I think it is making an impact, and I've seen progress with my students through this program. So that's what I've done in third grade, and now I know Debbie Bobick is gonna share what she's done in fifth grade.
All right, well, I teach fifth grade math this year. I feel totally blessed to be back in the building. I taught Online Academy last year. I had no idea how much the physical presence of a child means. So being back with them is huge. Over the summer, I was fortunate enough to take go to the Pbis conference. And one of the items that I attended was the morning meetings. And the teachers were just talking about how that built a sense of community in their classroom, and how it was just a calming way to start the day. And after being gone for a year and a half, and my own emotions coming back into the building, how am I gonna fit back in? Am I gonna roll back into this and be okay with it? The fear of the students coming back from online, they were gone for a year and a half as well. How are they gonna fit in? So I kind of realized how my students were gonna feel as an adult here. So when I heard about morning meeting, I knew that this was something I wanted to do. So my morning meetings are all about creating a sense of community in the classroom. We read books, The Empty Pot, Mr. Peabody's Apples. We've been reading that as far as integrity and honesty. And we talk about the theme when we're done, we talk about how the characters feel. And it's interesting to the kids because they're like, you're a math teacher. I'm like, I know, but we can talk about this stuff, and it's been fun. We read the book, The Invisible Boy, and we talked about how that would make you feel. And all of the students are included in on the conversation. Not all of them participate, and that's okay. They're there in the classroom. Some of the other things that we do for morning meeting is we play It's Time to Share. So we talk about what did we do through the weekend? What are we looking forward to this weekend? We talk about our holidays and fun things that we do, and just have conversation in the morning and just share with each other. And they love to share about their families and pets. I know about everybody's pets, and of course they know about mine too. But I am thankful for this time in the morning with my students. I do feel it brings a sense of calm in the morning. We're just having that conversation. We're sharing books. We're doing some morning, do some reflection, writing, and it's just a great way to start the day. And I'm just really thankful for that time with my students.
So one of the best things that the Ohio Department of Education ever did was remove English from being a single subject and integrating it as English language arts, and really allowing teachers to explore reading, writing, speaking, listening, and all of the humanities. And that, I can say this as a former language arts and Spanish teacher, that creates a great forum for addressing social emotional learning through characters and stories and history, and the list goes on. So I'd like to bring up now and introduce Mrs. Sherry Dice and Mrs. Nicole Otting, who are both fifth grade language arts teachers.
Good evening, everybody. I feel like this wasn't even planned, but Debbie kind of gave me the perfect, and Lindsay as well, the perfect segue, because I have to say, the morning meeting, I had no idea what morning meeting was, and I was a little apprehensive at the beginning of the year when I heard we were going to be doing this, and Donnie gave us all kinds of great ideas, and I have to say, this is my very favorite part of the entire day, is that protected 30 minutes where I get to bond with my students, and every day is different, and you never know what's going to come up in a conversation. We've talked about so many things. We've had lots of laughs. I'm not going to lie, there's been some tears. Interesting subjects have come up, but it's just a great, great time to bond with students, and everybody's on the same level, and sometimes people don't participate at all for weeks, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, somebody will share something, and it just feels wonderful. So also, so I'm doing the SELA program in the morning, which stands for Social Emotional Learning Language Arts, which is basically the same things they were talking about. And as you see, I kind of call this a toolbox of tools, which is perfect. So basically, we're taking the 5 standards that Donnie mentioned, and we've done we started with the self-awareness, which is recognizing your emotions and how you're feeling, and talking about how you deal with those emotions, how you present those emotions, how you react to your feelings. And then we spent the first quarter talking about how those emotions can be come out in a negative way or a positive way, and through a variety of scenarios. And then this quarter, we've moved on to self-management. So it's like, okay, so you know, you're aware of what your weaknesses are. Now, what are we going to do about it? So we're focusing on techniques for dealing with these emotions that come up in an inappropriate time. So I'm going to kind of just briefly talk about the toolbox that we use. And so we talk about these emotions, and there's a variety of resources up here. I'm going to start with go down to the activity. So we keep revisiting these social emotional standards in a variety of ways. And so I've listed here, we do picture books, and we talk about how the characters are feeling and how they react and how they could have reacted. We've played bingo games. We've done some scenario games which they really like. And basically what that is, you present them with a scenario that might occur to them in 5th grade. You know, maybe somebody talking about them, they overhear somebody talking about them. And I just have to quickly share, one of the favorite ones that we did is they partnered up. And so I would give them a scenario and say, okay, this just happened. And then the first thing they do is, with their partner, they just blurt out whatever's on their mind, how they want to react to a situation. And then they share out, well, I said this, I told them I can't stand them and I don't want to be their friend anymore. And so then we would present the same scenario, and we would say, okay, now this time you're going to stop and think. You're not going to just blurt out the first thing that comes to mind. Talk to your partner, and then they share out like how they could have handled that if they would have stopped and thought about it before they just reacted. So that's just like a small example. They've created posters. At the end of each unit, there's like a culminating project. So we played these scenario games, but then they also created a scenario game, which basically they create the scenario that they might have experienced in life. And then, so the choices, you look on the back and it's like there's 3 choices of how to react to this scenario, and they try to pick out which one is the best reaction for something like that. And the breathing exercises, so this is when we talk about self-regulating, there's these little videos, and they teach them different exercises to, like if they're feeling stressed out or angry, how to calm themselves. So I put one up here just to demonstrate to you. This is probably their favorite one. Josh, if you don't mind clicking on the breathing exercises, you're welcome to try this with them. They'll first explain the exercise, and then they actually go through it with a group of students.
Mindfulness videos, type B, full body relaxation. Today, we are going to learn a new breathing technique called full body relaxation to help you manage how you feel and help control the choices you make. Doing this exercise will continue to boost thinking and help you have better concentration. During this relaxation exercise, remember to pay close attention as to how this makes your body feel. Try to bring your brain to a place where you're not thinking about what's going on outside of your head. This full body relaxation exercise helps you relax by tightening and releasing different muscle groups in your body. Let's get started. First, raise your eyebrows and wrinkle your forehead. Try to touch your hair with your eyebrows. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Now make a frown. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Close your eyes as tightly as you can. Draw the corners of your mouth back towards your ears with your lips closed. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Open your eyes and mouth as wide as you can. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Stretch your arms out in front of you. Close your fist tightly. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Stretch your arms to the side. Pretend you are pushing against an invisible wall with your hands. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Lift your shoulders. Try to make your shoulders touch your ears. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Arch your back away from your chair. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Think about how this relaxation makes your body feel. Remember, anything you want to do well, you must practice, practice, practice. You will gain more confidence, feel a greater sense of calm, and it will become a good habit the more you practice. These exercises not only help you at school, but you can practice on your own at home or with family and friends.
Thank you. So, like Mrs. Andy and Mrs. Bobby, since we have been doing, it's amazing the difference I've seen in some of my students, even fifth graders. At the beginning of the year, I have a young man that comes to mind that literally, when he would become overwhelmed with an assignment that required a lot of thinking and required a lot of work, and he was afraid he wouldn't get it finished in time because he hated homework, he would literally sometimes, kind of have a meltdown in front of the whole class. Now, like the other day, he's been handling things really well. He hasn't had any homework. But last week, we had an assignment that was going to require a lot of work. And he started to walk up towards me, and I could see the tears in his eyes. And I looked at him, and he looked at me. And then somebody came up, another student came up and talked to me. And I looked in the back of the room, and this young man was in the back of the room, facing the back of the wall. I was at the front of the room. And then all of a sudden, he turned around, came up to me, and calmly asked me questions that he needed. So I could tell that he was, getting himself calmed down before he came up to talk to me. So I do see a big difference. So my last tool, I forgot to mention the journals, which is also a tool in the toolbox. These are absolutely beautiful. They hit all of the standards, and the children, they love this book. They love writing in it, and so they write in it, and then we talk about it, and they share what they wrote in there. And the last tool that I want to talk about, and Mrs. Otting is going to show you some of the work that we do with them, some of the student samples, but the Connect notes. So we're given these Connect notes. Again, this is like one of my favorite things. So basically, if you're in the back and you can't see what this is, so the first thing they fill out is the level of urgency. So this is when they want to share something with you. Is it something that they need to share with you today, tomorrow, next week, or they don't really need to talk to you about it. They just want you to know that this is going on. So anyway, so their choices are they just want to talk to the teacher after class. They would like to talk to the counselor, psychologist. They just want you to know that they're struggling with something, they're excited about something, or it just may be, hey, I just want you to know this. So we started out the beginning of the year, everybody got one of these and filled it out, and I looked at them, and first of all, I was amazed at what some of the students wrote. But since then, we just do this periodically, but I also keep a pad near my desk with a box that they can fill these out anytime they want, and then they just stick it in the box, and I read it. And the great thing is, sometimes they'll ask to see Mrs. Anderson, but sometimes they'll just say, I just wanted you to know. But I actually, after reading what they write, I think, okay, I think I really need to talk to you about this to see how much this is really bothering you. Or there have been occasions where I've gone to Mrs. Anderson said, maybe you need to touch base with this person. But the greatest thing is, I can meet with them then on my time when it's convenient. So it can be at recess duty. When I'm outside, I can just walk up to them and have a conversation, or maybe in the hallway when we're going from class to class or to or from special, I can just kind of touch base with them one-on-one, just to make sure that it's not a big deal, it's just something they wanted to share with me. So this is probably one of my favorite tools. So I will let Mrs. Otting share some of our samples.
Good evening. I also want to echo that the Connect Notes have been very beneficial for our students. I did something a little different. I had the kids take 5 of them. They can keep them in their pencil bag or their binders. And I noticed for a lot of the kids, I'm very comfortable saying, plot me anywhere and I'll be fine talking to people, but not everybody feels that way. And so, especially if it's a topic that concerns them, something that maybe they're embarrassed about or they don't want other people to know, sometimes just the act of saying it out loud to you can be very intimidating. So by having those with them, anytime they have something they want to share, sometimes that's given us a heads up that maybe something's going on that no one was aware of. So now we know to keep an extra eye on them. Sometimes it's if they're worried about a test that's coming up later in the day, and they'll just say, I don't want you to do anything about it, I just wanted to say that I was nervous. And, it's a great way to foster conversation tools. They're aware that something is bothering them, and they can handle it in a way that they are most comfortable with by writing on those Connect Notes and sharing things with us instead of maybe having to get up in front of their peers and say, can I talk to you outside for a second? This is a much safer way for them to communicate that they have some needs. So in addition to the journals, there's some other activities that we do in the classroom. So the next couple of slides have some sample work. These are pages from the journals. I know it may be hard to see, but it says, imagine you are growing a garden of friends. What seeds or qualities would you plant? What or who would open from these seeds? So the kids could write a list of qualities that they would like to see in a friend. And I obviously cut off the bottom because there were some names on there, but they basically went through the people in their life, family members, friends, coaches, teachers, anything, and they could write down, these people show these traits. I want to have them in my garden. So, it's a way for them to kind of get their thoughts out, but it's not, too open-ended. It kind of gives them a sense of purpose for what they're sharing. It also ties in very well with language arts because any book that they're reading, it says which character in your book you identify with the most. So it doesn't have to be the main character, it can be somebody else. And sometimes it's something as simple as they have a younger brother that gets on their nerves and I have a younger brother that gets on my nerves. They're very blunt and honest about that, but it's a way for them to see the commonalities. And in language arts, we talk a lot about what the problem of the story is and what kind of personal triumph they have to overcome. And by seeing that characters in a book also experience stress, fear, worries, emotional outbursts, it kind of normalizes that, those are okay emotions to have. It's okay to feel your emotions. We just want to help you with how you deal with them. These are some more student samples. They talk about what does your best self look like and what are some things that you do to represent your best self. We talk a lot about, when I'm at my best, what are some things that I can say about myself? And for some of the kids, that was very easy for them to do, and others, I think, are a little harder on themselves, and they had a harder time coming up with things to say. And so it offered us the conversation to say, okay, so when you're happiest, what do you typically do? And so you kind of find different ways and different words to help them process those feelings. So, what does your best self look like? Listening, taking my time, kind, smiling, focused, happy. And then there were some other questions on there that, if I wasn't feeling like my best self, how could I get back to that place? And then the kids kind of wrote down things that applied to them. So taking a break, listening to music, going for a walk. They kind of came up with the tools that would be best helpful to them, just like we all learn differently. Some people learn better visually, some people like to hear things better. Your social emotional status and how you feel about things can be different for every child as well. So those are some other samples of things. They love the journals, they're beautifully colored. It's not just a spiral notebook, which I think they love. They feel very special, getting to use the pages and see that it's really fancy. And they get to use pen, which I think is a very big deal, because we always say, use pencil, and with this, can we use pen, can we use marker? Yes, absolutely. And then this isn't an activity that they do, it's not in the journal, but it goes with the program. But they had to draw a picture of what they look like when they feel a different emotion, so not at their best self. And, they were able to pick a word, so anxious, sad, afraid. And then they kind of wrote down some things about what happens when you feel those emotions. And I have noticed with a few of my students, I also taught with Mrs. Bobick in BOA last year, and I think that was an added blessing for me, that the kids that were coming back from BOA, I knew what they were experiencing. We were in the thick of it with them. And so when some of them were worried about being in a classroom of students, I said, I understand how you feel. We've all been in our rooms or our dining room table or the basement, wherever we were. And, sometimes we can be anxious about those things. So it was a great way for them to kind of level the playing field. Everybody feels these emotions. We may show them differently, we may react differently, but it is normal to have those feelings. It extends beyond the classroom. They go out to recess and there's, an argument, or somebody didn't play by the rules at football, or, I didn't make any baskets when we were playing. I'm trying to blank on the name of the game. Well, not basketball, but like shootout, where we're trying to not get a knockout. Thank you. Oh my gosh, sorry. And at the beginning of the year, it was such a big reaction. It's like, it's just a game, we understand that because we're on the outside of that. But with the kids, just like when things happen with us, when you're in the thick of it, it's a lot harder to apply those things. Some students were coming in every day at recess upset about a situation that had happened. Not to say that they're not still upset, but they have some tools now where they can almost relate to, okay, it didn't work out for me, but I can't control that. I'm not going to let it ruin the rest of my afternoon. The language that they're using to process their feelings has changed. It's made a huge difference in a lot of my students. One of the kids in my class had a difficult situation during a morning special, and he was so upset that he couldn't articulate what was bothering him. He was just so distraught. And so when I walked in, I said, well, let's try the breathing exercise. And there's a couple different ones, but the full body that the video showed, that is by far their favorite. You should have seen all the giggles and things where it's like, hey, you're doing all the faces and stuff. I don't want to do that. But now they've realized how different they feel after that. It kind of just sets a calm over you. And so I said, okay, let's do one of your breathing exercises. He goes, okay, so we did that. And I said, now what happened? A whole different change in him. He was able to tell me what happened, why he was upset. And I said, okay, so what can we do next time? How can we make it better next time? He goes, well, next time I can ask my teacher if I can be in a different group. Because that was the issue, it was a conflict. I said, that's a great idea. And I said, what else can we do? And so we talked through those things as we were returning to the classroom. At the beginning of school, that would never have happened. He would have been so upset, we probably would not have figured out what had happened. We just knew that something upset him. it's a huge benefit to our students and to us. I'm a mother of a 4-year-old, and big reactions to little scenarios. And it's helped me to take a step back as well, even in my personal life, to say, okay, this is not a big deal. This is out of my control, it's out of her control. How can we make this better? So, I think it encompasses a lot of things for our students and for the staff to have this as an opportunity and to see how much of an impact it's made on our kids. So, thank you so much. Oh yeah, there's one more thing, I'm sorry. Just more student work.
Thank you. So the big theme of this is really the thing that is not just a kid thing, it's a human thing. The scariest of all the gamut of human emotions is the fear of the unknown and the need for catharsis when we find ourselves in emotional peril. And that's what all of these things provide to students, but teaching them the healthy ways to deal with that, which are not what they see on TikTok and Netflix and YouTube and their Xbox. So we do have a need to overtly teach these things so that we can keep people regulated up in their upstairs brains, executive functioning skills, so that we can get to the fundamental purpose of school and our mission, which is, of course, education. So in this same gamut and this table A, it's important that I introduce Mrs. Kelly Anderson, our school counselor, because we have myriad counseling office supports for push in and pull out models in our school.
Good evening. When Scott was up here, I wanted him to push this mic up higher. But I didn't do it. I waited for him to make eye contact. So I have worked at Belle Creek for 15 years, but this is my third year altogether in education. And one of the blessings of being able to be in this school district is that I am in one building for 5 days, and I didn't have that before. And I feel like I've been able to do, I'm here when things happen, and been able to do so many different things and have the blessing opportunities for that. So I want to share some of those things. And most of these things I'm sharing with you are things that have been happening here for 15 years or nearly 15 years. One of the things that I have a really big heart for is serving our military kids. Currently, we have 94 military connected youth in this building. That is, and I'm no math person, but I think that's almost 1/6. That's a lot, and that's a really important group that we need to meet the needs of. So I have tried to do some things to learn, gone to conferences, to try to learn what are those needs. I'm not military connected myself, but I knew that was an area where there was a need. So we have all these military kids. Belle Creek is a Purple Star school. Purple Star is a designation of honor through the Ohio Department of Education. We received it in the second round of recipients of that honor in 2018, and then we just had it renewed again. And what that means is that we are considered to be a school that is military family friendly. So we don't just offer military kids only the same things we offer all the other kids. We look at what their needs might be. And we do things to really intentionally meet those needs. So I felt like that was really wonderful for us to be able to meet, to show that, or the state to say that we were doing that. And I also serve on the state Purple Star committee, and I sometimes present at Purple Star town halls and other things like that about the things we do here for military kids. So the military kids program is voluntary for the kids because some of them, they just have different feelings about it. Some of them want to really want to be involved. They want to come to all the things. Other kids don't want to miss recess, which is fine. Some kids I've noticed, if they've had a parent who is deployed, they don't want to attend meetings that year. It's just too much a reminder for them, so we follow their cues. We have monthly meetings for military kids by grade level, and they just think that's the coolest thing. And I tell them I want them to know who each other is because they don't go around with badges on identifying themselves as military kids, and they experience things that are so unique compared to their peers. So it's really fun to have them meet together in those groups. And one of the things that I love is when they make those connections, like we'll talk about, okay, where all have you lived? And they'll talk about it and they'll be like, wait a minute, I lived there too. What school did you go to? They make these connections. They may not have been there at the same time, but the fact that they have found someone who has that in common with them, it's just huge for them. And I've received a lot of feedback from military families about what a blessing it was for them and how they didn't always have that in other schools that they attended. One of our newest things this year that I'm so thrilled about is that finally we qualify for a military family life counselor, which is provided to us and funded through the Department of Defense. And you just have to have a certain ratio of your students. And so we have that. And ours is named Mrs. Beth Ben. She serves all the schools in the district. She's fabulous. She's just has fit right in. It's just been wonderful because there's more than 600 kids here. There's one at Maine, and so that can be hard to meet all those needs and feel like I'm doing all of the things I should be doing. So I have her to count on to help me with those kids, with that 1/6 of those kids. She's taken a major role in the groups, the monthly military kids groups. She also sees kids individually, and she works with families. She has a background of an clinical setting, but she's also been an MPLAC in other school districts. So she kind of brings a lot of things to the table, and she's been a really nice addition to our school. So I'm super excited about that. We really try to tailor our students are coming from all different places. We have some students who move in, they're here for 3 years, they leave. So we're supporting them through their transition in, and then supporting them when they transition out. We have some students who have parents who are deployed, and we provide support for them, following their need and really communicating with the families to support them in the way that's best to support them. We usually make care packages to send to any of the parents that are deployed, and the kids love to come up with the ideas of what things to put in it, and it's kind of funny, and some of the things they want to put in there. But and some of them think they're experts because they have had parents that have been deployed, so that's really special for them. We also we participate with the high school when they do the military ball games. They always allow the elementary to have some part in that, and so that's nice to honor that. So really happy to be able to do so many things for our military kids, and we're always looking for new ways to serve them and better ways to serve them. So that's one part. Next slide. These are kind of the big groups of like what I do. One of the things I do is I do lessons in each classroom once a month, almost every month, about, actually a lot of things these ladies have been talking about. I've been teaching these things for 30 years. And now maybe I should have written some books. But talking with students about the first step in empathy is being able to recognize emotions, being able to identify emotions in yourself, identify emotions in others. And then from there, you can understand how your actions affect other people's emotions, how what you do affects other people. And that's sort of the start of empathy. In younger grades, you probably do more of that, but But in these grades, we review those things, but we also talk about things like, I like to teach them about how their brains work, about how they want to have their upstairs brain, their prefrontal cortex, to be what's controlling them. That prefrontal cortex is what makes good decisions. That's what kind of helps regulate you. When something happens that makes you feel like you're in danger, then your amygdala, which I tell them is like your guard dog and tries to protect you, that amygdala, that downstairs brain is active. And what that downstairs brain wants you to do is it wants you to have that fight, flight, or freeze reaction without the rational thought, the learning from what's happened in the past, the ability to analyze things that are going on. And so we talk about, they love to learn why that's happening. I think it helps them so much to know what's going on in their brains. And then from there, we can talk about how do you help your prefrontal cortex to be in charge. Well, you need to do something to calm your body down. So we talk a lot about breathing and other types of mindfulness and coping skills. We also spend time talking about bullying awareness and prevention. It's very important. Every single year, it's actually required by the state of Ohio that we teach all students about that. So we intentionally spend time every year doing that. I do another whole lesson on kindness. So I tell them, I've talked to you about bullying, recognizing whether things you might be doing might be bullying others, knowing what to do if you have been bullied. But I also want to talk about the opposite of that. I want to talk about how to be intentionally kind. And so when I do those lessons, I do like to use picture books. I find that kids, when if they just hear you talking about something in general, it maybe doesn't really hit home. But if you're reading something, if you're reading a story that they can feel emotionally invested in and kind of understand those feelings of the characters, sometimes that makes a big difference for them. And stimulates their empathy and their understanding. So we talk about how it's maybe not enough to just not bully somebody. Maybe what you should be doing is finding ways to intentionally be kind. So we talk about that. We talk about conflict resolution. This is a big age group for not always agreeing with each other, and how that's, conflict is a normal part of life, and you need to learn how to do that. And so we spend a lot of time talking about how to use those I statements. I feel this way, and how to start that. We talk about resiliency, all kinds of different things, whatever seems to be the needs during those years. Another thing that I do is I have several support groups that go on. My groups are not therapeutic groups. I am not a licensed professional counselor. I'm a school counselor, so I have a different type of training. And so when I form groups, I'm getting students who have something in common, have needs that are in common, and then we meet together to kind of realize that there are other people that are dealing with the same things we are, whether it's new students. We have a lot of new students every year. We usually have about 20 per grade level. And they come to school, they don't know who else is in the student. So to be able to meet together in groups is really helpful for them. I also do groups with students whose parents are separated or divorced. And same situation, they don't always know who else is in that situation. So to meet together to realize that they are not alone, other people have experienced the same kind of thing, and to talk about things they have experienced that are similar. Sometimes I've done groups for students who have experienced the death of a sibling or a parent, quite a few of them. Also for students who struggle with anxiety. So any of these groups are completely voluntary on the part of the kids, and they are kids only participate in them if they have permission from their parents to do that. So usually lasts about six weeks, once a week during recess. We used to do lunch and recess, but try not to have the eating thing with COVID germs, so we're just doing recess right now. Kids really like the groups. They help them really bond with with each other. It also is a benefit for me because I get to know them better. I also meet with students, individually in my office, to come up with solutions to problems. Again, I'm not a licensed professional counselor. I cannot provide therapy, but I can help students with a lot of the problems that they're going to experience at this age. Help them come up with, help them think through solutions to their problems. Help them figure out how to resolve conflict with a peer. Many times that I talk to kids, it's because they have a conflict with a peer. So we spend a lot of time doing that. Sometimes they just want to talk to me because they just need somebody to tell something to. And they think I'm a safe person to do that. And just there are lots of things, you would believe this over. But sometimes kids just want to come and tell me what's going on in their lives and different things like that. So that's what I do with kids individually. Students can request to see me. They each are in my Google Classroom. I have just a simple Google form that they can fill out. So it's private. They can just let me know kind of it's really so funny because it's really similar to that Connect note. It's like, is this something you need to see today? We need to see this week? And then they can tell me a little bit about it if they want. So also I have a lot of parents that ask me to speak with their children about things, and sometimes they have teachers. A lot of times I have teachers that ask me to speak with their kids. So those are the biggies of the things that I do, but there are other million little things too. One thing that just really didn't fall into any category that we were talking about that I really did want to mention is our Eagle Eats program. Tess Rivero is one of the leaders, or I don't know what it is, for National Honor Society of High School. And one of the things that they do is they do a program where they collect donations of money or donations of non-perishable food items, and then they package together. They kind of call them like lunches. It's like a meal of non-perishable things that a child could just open and eat, or maybe just heat in a microwave. And on Fridays, those students who are signed up for that program, I go to their lockers and I put the bags of food in their backpacks. So it's very private. Nobody sees me do it. They can take that home, and it's a really neat program. We really don't have any idea how some of these kids don't have enough to eat at home. And I've come to realize that when I have kids who are asking, "Are we going to get them this Friday?" The Eagle Eats program is always looking for donations of food or of money. I have some brochures that Tess left with me that I'll leave on that back table if anybody would like to become involved in helping or contributing or something like that. But that doesn't really fall under any sort of like counseling thing, but it is like a big thing that we do provide.
So this brings us really close to the end. These last two pieces are pretty short. With our behavioral supports, I'm sure the thing that we're hearing here and understanding is that even adult people, all humans have been impacted by this, and now we are having to meet these needs in a very overt way, and that includes behavior. Another state mandate is Pbis. This isn't just something that Belle Creek does. Every school in Ohio is mandated to have some formalized Pbis program, positive behavior intervention and supports. So for us, what that looks like is, and this just sort of explains it technically from the Ohio.gov, but the next slide shows you really what we do here. So every school has to pick, 3 or 4 things is what they recommend are best practices that you really want to foster in your students. And for us, that's being respectful, peaceful, responsible, and problem solvers. You'll see our signage that we have, the vinyls around the building, where we identify and we overtly teach children what that means. What does being respectful look like? What does being a problem solver look like? And what do those behaviors look like in different areas, different aspects of their school day, because maybe it's a little different in a playground or a school bus or PE class or in the cafeteria than in a classroom or hallway setting. And really, it's basic human psychology here. I mean, how can anybody meet an expectation if they don't understand what it is? So we have to teach them and sometimes reteach them what these behaviors look like. I mean, Mrs. Keaton would tell you that at Stephen Bell, kindergartners don't understand sit down, stand up, and you have to show them. This is sit, this is stand. And that is, I think, really what we as educators are having to deal with. We are dysregulated, we have been through a lot of trauma, and we have to realize that gone are the days of children coming to school completely ready to learn, even in the most affluent and typically low needs areas in public education. So we have to overtly take care of this in order to do what we are here to do in school. And it's fun, because they understand it. We start our very first day of school with a meeting with Kelly and I and the whole grade level at a time. And she got to be like a talk show host and run around with a microphone while I asked the students to explain to me, what is it to be respectful? What does that look like? What might you say or do to show that, or responsibility, etc. And they know what R2P2 means. And they can do it, and sometimes they forget because they're kids, they're humans, they get excited, and so we have to remind them, walking feet in the hallway, be respectful, okay, turn around, go back, try it again. And they get that. So the next part of this is that because it's positive behavior intervention and support, the goal of the system is to foster those positive behaviors by rewarding them. So we have an online system that we use, and teachers award points to students when they see these behaviors, or to whole classes when they see the desired behaviors. That's not to say that there aren't consequences for bad behavior or repetitious behavior or major behavior infractions, acts of violence, disrespect, things like that the principal gets to deal with. But ultimately, it is an economy, which teachers for years have had classroom economies or different incentives that they use to manage classroom behaviors and classroom management. And this is just a school-wide part of our culture, part of our fiber of who we are and what we do. And because my plate has been so full, Kelly actually handles the woo-woo wagon, which is the rewards part. So the students take their points and then they're able to make purchases. So can you just briefly explain that? Very briefly.
Okay, I think Donnie doesn't want to do the woo-woo wagon because he doesn't want to say woo-woo wagon. The next slide has a picture of the woo-woo wagon. It's a program called Pbis Rewards. Teachers can easily award points through this. Kids can see online through their Clever login their Pbis points, how many points they've earned, and they can use those to purchase privileges like getting to wear slippers that day, or getting to have the fancy rolling chair that day, it's a very popular one is joke telling. On the announcements, it costs more money to actually use your voice to tell them the announcements. It's less money for Mrs. Terrell to put the joke on the screen that runs eventually. So that's a really popular one. And I love that because it doesn't cost us money. But they can buy from their teacher's stores, or they can buy from the school store. So, and from the school store, there's some examples of some of our woo-woo wagon things. The first little bit in there is probably the most popular item, which are things that Ms. BB prints with a 3D printer. This will be plastic, but they absolutely love it. It sells out all the time. In fact, I only make so many available at a time. Like plastic sloth. You might have to get that. But they're super excited about those things. So she tries to keep us from those things. And it's other kinds of just little things. I ask them to tell me suggestions for that. So anyway, I'm almost there. So I come into lunch with the woo-woo wagon. As soon as they see me with it, they all just woo-woo, they start going woo-woo. they're really excited, use the microphone, and okay, and then they get to come up and get their prize. And they all clap for each other, it's really cute. And so it just adds some excitement, some positivity, some fun in the day, and rewarding them. And it's nice for them because they get to choose. They can spend their points on a lot of little things, or they can save up for some bigger items. And we're always looking for donations for gift cards for those bigger items. They love like Chick-fil-A and things like that. It's just a little commercial there. But that's our giveaway.
Thank you. So our mental health supports is the last leg of that table that's so important to supporting students in their job here as learners. This is the big thing about the multi-tiered systems of supports in Greene County, is that we are learning administratively that we have a plethora of services available to us through the Greene County Educational Service Center that we really weren't aware of, and other neighboring districts have been taking full advantage of these. And we're going to start to do that as we systematize how we intervene when we find that students have a need in one of these areas, as illustrated by those table aids. So very quickly, I'd just like to introduce some people who are going to be not necessarily members of our staff family, but certainly service providers in our schools. We have for a long time had Ms. Laura Taylor, who is a school-based mental health therapist, as Kelly mentioned. She's not a clinical psychologist or a therapist in that way as a school counselor, so this is when we have a more intensive need, looking at those tiers. Laura Taylor would be the person to provide service when someone is more in a crisis level need. Behavioral intervention coach, Laura Eaton, she's just now starting to get into our building as of next Tuesday. We're very excited to welcome her in here because, again, our expertise is really not behaviorists and behavior coaching, so that's what she'll be here to help us with some more intensive behaviors. We have a social emotional learning school-based consultant, Libby Wagner. We actually share her with Stephen Belle, so she spends a day and a half thereabouts here at Belle Creek each week, and then about a day and a half at Stephen Belle working with those students. One of the great things that has just started to come out in the last couple of months is support for parents. I think that is something that is an increasing need, and so many parents will come to me, even when I was a teacher, and they'll say, I really want to help my child succeed, but I don't know how to do this math. I don't know how I can help them. I know that they're struggling, but I don't know what to do. I don't know how to use Google Classroom, et cetera, or even with behavioral or emotional problems. And now the county is offering these positive parenting sessions each month. They're virtual. We are even able to ask them to do exclusive sessions for just Bellbrook parents. Right now they're county-wide, but they will do them just for us. They can be virtual, they can be in person, really whatever we need. So those have been coming out via newsletters from Mrs. Keaton and I to our elementary parents, and they focus on various topics, and everyone's invited to attend. So I just think that's fabulous that we have all of these resources, and that there is a pretty universal throughout the county and really throughout the state and nation, probably the world, if the truth be told, that people are recognizing how much more significant the needs are and what we need to be doing to address them. So the last thing that I really want to do here this evening is I had asked Dr. Kozad about good news recognition because I felt like there was a member of our school community who was very deserving of recognition and praise, and that would be Mrs. Kathy Barlow. She is our permanent building substitute because we have had to do that with the sub shortage last year and this year. And I didn't know Kathy Barlow until this year, and if you don't know her, you should get to know her because she is just extraordinary. The first week of school, before we were having the COVID issues and the staffing problems, she reached out to me and she said, I'm very familiar with Belle Creek. I know you're the new principal, you're dealing with a lot. What can I do to help you? I will be there, I will help you with dismissal, I will help you manage traffic, I know it's been a nightmare, all these sorts of things. And she can do it all. And then I realized, why am I talking about the culture of the building? I've subbed in several teachers' classrooms, and I try to be everywhere, but Kathy Barlow truly has been everywhere. She can handle anything. We have some substitutes who say, I don't want to do this grade level, or I'm not comfortable, doing music or whatever. She does it all. She has, there aren't enough words to express the gratitude and just how impressed I am with her. And we just need to give her all the praise because she is flexible. She fills in for any need that we have, whether it's an aide, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a duty. I mean, you ask her to do it, she does it with a smile on her face, and she entertains kids. She's a true edutainer. And the very greatest thing about this, and she agreed to even speak a little here, is that she offers a very unique perspective on the building. And I'm very new here, but she's very invested as both a parent and basically a staff member because she's here every day. And would we love to have her here permanently? So since you're putting influence, I will too.
I think I'm deserving of all that. I'm really just a sub. That's it. Okay. Donnie asked me yesterday if I would speak, and I was like, about what? And he was like, you just have this really unique perspective. You're here a lot, and you're here everywhere, and you're a parent, so just speak to that. And I said, okay, I'll see what I can come up with. So here it is. Bear with me. Hi, I'm Kathy Barlow. Here, I'm Mrs. Barlow. But at home, they call me Mom, like a lot of you. I'm a parent in the school district. I have 2 boys, a 2nd grader and a 4th grader in this building. I've taught them both in class, many classes, specials, all of the classes. I buy the biggest bottles of lotion for their teachers and other things for Christmas presents because I know my own children. So that's why I'm here. I'm both. And Donnie called it a unique perspective, so that's why I ran with this. So let me give you what I got. I've taught every student at Bellbrook on all platforms. I've been in the classroom. I've taught special ed. I've covered for intervention specialists and aides. I think that's the hardest one that I do. I even filled a long-term sub job at the beginning of the school year for intervention specialists. I've assisted and helped cover in the office. They're truly the foundation of the school. I've taught specials, all of them. I did a long term for digital literacy. That was my favorite. It's very fun. And I've done every duty imaginable. Drop off, pick up, bus riders, walkers, bike riders, hall duty, recess duty, lunch duty, traffic coordinator. I've been there. I'm happy to do it. I get to see the teaching styles of these classrooms, their management, all of them. I get to see every single teacher. I get to see their efforts and their passions. I get to see their lessons, literally in black and white on lesson plans. Every day, I get to see exactly what they do. And I also get to see the other side of it. I get to see the workload that they carry and how difficult it is. They just stood here and talked to you for a very long time about how they're not just teachers, they're counselors too. It's very difficult. And let me see where I was going with this. So I get to see the problems. I was really hesitant to use that word, but I get to see the problems really close up. And as a parent, it's kind of like, oh, I don't really want to see all that. But as an educator, it is what it is, and I'm happy to be involved. I want to be involved. I put myself here every day. I saw the backed up traffic, like you said. I sat in it as a parent, and then I stood on the sidewalk and helped load kids in the cars. What else have I seen? I saw the overcrowded lunchrooms, that close contact quarantines were out of control. My own child was affected by it. I have been in our very overcrowded classrooms. Some have been 30 kids or more, trying to shush them to teach 2-digit multiplication. A lot of mouths. And I'm definitely feeling the shortage of subs. A couple of days in a row, I got to teach music and PE together, 2 classes at once. It really wasn't that bad. Musical fitness is actually a fun thing. But it's a lot of kids. It's a lot of kids. If you like loud noise, it's fun. Okay. So what I learned quickly, very quickly, from seeing all these problems, and tell you I don't want to use that word, but here I'm saying it again. I see them so up close because many times I'm in the space that they're happening because I go cover the problems, right? They're really layered.
And I have mom friends and they're like, oh, they need to fix these problems, and I'm like, oh, where do we start? Where do we start, And that's what I'm here to talk about. I want to talk about how they're so layered and there's no simple solution. But on the flip side of this, I'm seeing solutions. I have less things to do as the days go on. So that's a good thing, right? And the problem solvers are the teachers of our children and the administrators who lead them. Traffic flows better these days, you guys, so things have happened positively. We have a lot of lunch periods. That's not a problem anymore, along with other changes. Overcrowded classrooms, that's another speech that's not for tonight, but I'll come to another board meeting. And as for this sub shortage, I'm going to talk about that. Here's my ending point. Parents, if you're listening, offer your time. Apply to be a substitute teacher. That's with Sheila Woody at the board office. You can look for details online. Also, you can email to volunteer. If you're not comfortable being a sub, I get that. But you can volunteer your time in a classroom, in the office. They'll find a spot for you, I assure you. And if you don't have time, I get that too. Reach out to your teacher or the office and ask what supplies are needed. Trust me, there's always something needed. Disinfecting products, tissues, erasers, pencils, expo mark, I keep going. But of all of the problems I mentioned above, they were all solved because of constructive communication. That's what I'm learning. So from my unique parenting perspective, I think that's what we should focus on. So I'm ending with saying, let's flood inboxes of our teachers with positive messages. If you see it, report it, but positive stuff too, not just the negative. If there's one thing I've learned here as a sub in all of the problem areas, it's that the school has its most unsuccessful moments when there's a lack of communication. And then a lot of the time, the communication that does happen focuses on the negative, just seems to build. So I'm challenging us to find a positive, to shout about it, and we need to communicate the negative, because we need to sometimes be constructive. Be passionate about the good, not just the bad. Subbing the other day, I got the privilege to teach an SEL lesson, our social emotional learning, and it was about good vibes, finding good vibes. What happens when a student is in good vibes, not bad vibes, and they have a successful, productive day? So let's all put some good vibes out there. Have faith in our educators and administrators. Offer them grace and patience, and when concerns arise, back to communication, open that line of communication. And just to be clear, I really felt pulled to say this. I'm not talking communication through a post on the community Facebook page, but directly to your teacher. Email them, reach out, they want to help. Okay, trust that they are doing their very best. They are, I'm seeing it with my own two eyes. And if you want to know what's happening in the school, be a sub. Schools are not just innately great. Education is, but schools are not. It takes us all. So let's just keep trying. Thank you.
And I think that says it best, is that when they say it takes a village, it truly does. This is a very big job. It's bigger than I imagined it to be. I've been working tirelessly, trying to stay regulated and calm, and not reactive and in my upstairs brain so that I can, set that climate and culture for the building and help support teachers and parents in their work. And so this is kind of where we're going in the future with our NTSS, and this is what it looks like. It's a little pyramid with tier 1 supports at the classroom level, where teachers are more equipped to deal with the student needs and provide interventions. And then what does it look like when we start to add more services because the need isn't, it's not getting filled at tier 1, and so on to tier 3 when we have more intensive or crisis mode kind of things. Very excited that our new special education director, Mrs. Pritchard, has been spending a lot of time with me here in the building, and we've been working very hard at an audit of all the services that we have and where would we put those if we're trying to systematize them, and what can we say are our tier 1s or tier 2s. And she is very impressed, being new here as well, how many things we actually have. So we are well on our way, we just have to clean it up, tighten it up, systematize it, and develop those pathways so people know what to do. If I encounter this in my day-to-day job with students, then I do this. And we'll get there. Rome wasn't built in a day, and we've come a long way since August. One thing that I learned that I have done wrong is that I had no idea that it was a tradition in Bellbrook that Bellcreek hosted the December board meeting, and that involved a choir. Because I inadvertently built a building schedule that had Mrs. Wellbaum, our resident musician, teaching a third grade music class when she would have been teaching a choir of fifth graders voluntarily during their recess time. But, so as to not disappoint, I managed to make it down to visit Mrs. Wellbaum's class the other day, where they are learning to play ukuleles. And I have a very short 23-second snippet of some Christmas caroling by ukulele. So I think Mr. Bowles, either one of those will do it. A little bit. And that was Mrs. Gaines' class here, Greenway Road, and added some extra stuff. She's like, yeah, I kind of like that, let's do that again. And I think what you can see here is that education is a practice, it's not perfect. People are always working to be a master teacher. We're always getting better, we're always adapting, but we are humans too as educators. We have experienced the same things everyone else has. It's been tough, but we keep showing up and showing out and trying to learn and do better for our kids, make every day better than yesterday, and even better tomorrow. And you can see, not perfect. We talked about some problems that we have, but we are working together to communicate those, problem solve, and put our heads together to be the very best school that we can be. So I thank you very much for giving us this time. I'm so proud of our staff and students and community. I'm very, very blessed and proud to be the principal here. Thank you.
Just 5, 10 seconds here. So again, thanks, Mr. Phelps, staff, for presenting tonight and sharing all the fantastic things going on at the BCI. And you can truly see passion, dedication, and just making a difference of our students, of them ready to learn, and for them in a safe and welcoming environment. So really appreciate, it's been an extremely difficult year, so again, we appreciate that, so thank you.
Thank you all very, very much. Normally we would have open communication next, but we're going to take a 5-minute break so people can stand, stretch, and
You want to
Back in session, we're going to begin where we left off, with open communication, and we have Bill Montgomery.
Hello, all right, so I don't have to introduce myself. You did. You stole my attention step. Okay, it's time to get up, turn around 3 times, and give everybody a bathroom break.
Sorry.
I'm not recording anything, I'm just being respectful of time, and I get chatty, so I have a timer.
All right, thank you.
So in the agendas, you have a, let's see, what do you call it? Correspondence. Have you received any correspondence? And I'm curious, and I don't expect answers right now, but I'm kind of curious, and I know I saw this on a previous discussion from a citizen, but what constitutes correspondence that would get acknowledged at the beginning of the board meeting? Is it a letter, a bill that Kevin got? Probably not. But something addressed to board members, I would think, would be correspondence would be acknowledged. I looked through policies of the board, found no policy on what might cover this. So I'm not going to read you the email. I sent an email to each of the board members. It has 4 questions if I counted correctly. So that's just out there for you. Did I need to send it registered mail? I don't know. Okay. So then I will get a little bit into more on policies, because in the last school board meeting, you voted to, well, it was interesting discussion, but you voted to purchase buses. I think what you really voted to do was to accept bids. I would have expected a second action to be to vote to purchase said buses based on some cost threshold. You did at least have a threshold of not to exceed 5 buses, but are we spending 500,000 or are we spending $1 million? So I was curious, what do buses cost? So I emailed Kettering, Centerville, and Beaver Creek. Found out that, yeah, 100,000 is not a bad guess for a bus. 129,000 for special ed bus. And so, okay, maybe there's a resolution somewhere along the way in our future that decides that the bids are appropriate, and then you're going to spend X amount of money. I don't know. And then how are you paying for it? You have at least 2 checkbooks. I'm just calling them checkbooks, but you have your capital improvement fund, you have your general fund. At the last board meeting, there was discussion about, I guess either one of them could pay, that's cool. So, again, where was the discussion and the resolution, or the come back to us with what the cost is, to then determine which fund? And maybe that's not a board decision. I didn't dig through all the policies, kind of tough. Maybe there's a policy, because that's what policies in my mind do. They're like putting the balloons up in the gutters when you're bowling. Policies can keep you in the lane. So maybe there's a policy out there that says, well, okay, we authorize the purchase of up to 5 buses. Oh, I'm done. All right, that's why I said that. Thank you for your time. You got a tough job, folks. And my music bothers everybody, but no, really, you've got a tough job. So I'm just trying to get some slots going. You're managing a great deal of taxpayer money. Hadn't intended to make buying a bus is I would think would be a normal process, and that's why I would think there'd be those balloons in the gutter that then would give the board, and then whoever's executing, because that's another thing, who's executing and spending your money. All right, thank you very much, and good luck to you. Thank you, congratulations on the 4 years. I sat back here for several years before we got to COVID, and watched the board, and I really didn't realize you were that new. You made good contributions and questions. All right,
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, we're going on to section 8, new business. This begins our consent agenda. So it's 8A, certified and licensed staff employment, and 8B, support staff employment and resignation leave or absence, and 8C, central office employment and resignation leave or absence. It's not included the hand carry, but I guess that's it. Is there any items in the consent agenda, 8A, 8B, and 8C, that we'd like to have pulled out for individual discussion. All right, hearing none, then do we have a motion to accept our consent agenda items of 8A, 8B, and 8C?
So moved.
Mrs. Dorn?
Second.
Mr. Kinsey? Any questions or comments? All right, Mr. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Sloughman?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorn?
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Motion passes. So, Dr. Kuze, will they-
Sure.
Sure, so 8C, new business central office employment resignation, leave of absence. Recommend approval of resignation from coordinator of technology Joshua Bowles at effective end of day December 31st, 2021. And then also recommend approval of Joshua Bowles as technology consultant for up to 20 days during the remainder of the 21-22 school year at his current per diem rate.
We have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Kinsey? Mrs. Sloughman? Any questions or comments? Josh, I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly, I'm not comfortable with this particular agenda item. Period. It's like, there.
Do we have a, are you gonna give us an out that we can, and we can try it down?
So if you don't approve, you have to stay.
Good luck to you, Josh. Thanks.
Wish you the very best. Thank you. All right, Mr. Wagner, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Carpenter?
Regretfully, yes.
Mrs. Dorn?
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
On to D, 2021-22 student fees, recommend approval amendment to the 2021-22 student fee schedule to reflect changes in the music department current music department winter card fees.
Is there a motion? So moved. Mr. Kinsey? And a second?
Second.
Mrs. Dorn? Questions or comments? So they're all up like $25. All right, Mr. Wagner, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dorn?
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman? Mr. Carpenter?
Yes. Motion passes.
The out-of-state travel, recommend approval of the following out-of-state travel, high school winter guard to Avon, Indiana, February 12th and 13th, 2022, and Indianapolis, Indiana, March 19th and 20th, 2022, for the purpose of participating in the WGI regionals, no cost to the district. I'm sorry, and then grade 4 to 7 math and tatball teams in Indianapolis, Indiana, April 23rd, 2022, for the purpose of tournament competition. Costs to the district include substitute teachers, spring board, we asked for the 3 advisors for 2 nights.
Motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Dorn? Second? Mrs. Sloughman? I always thought that math and tap one was a great trip. Enjoyed it thoroughly, and so and my kids were going through that.
Yeah. Good learning experience.
It sure is. Any other questions or comments?
I have just a general question. Why don't we add all those items to the consent agenda? Why do we break some things out for separate reading and actions versus making all from the consent agenda?
Typically, we've dealt with the items that had to do with hiring.
Personnel,
Okay, all right.
HR personnel kind of decisions.
That's, all right.
Any other questions or comments? All right, Mr. Ryan, please call the roll.
Mr. Kinsey?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorn?
Yes.
Motion passes.
That special meeting, recommend approval of special meeting date for the purpose of a board workshop retreat with representative of Ohio School Boards Association on Saturday, January 29th, 2022, 8:30 to noon at the St. Pierre Education Center.
Motion?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
Mr. Kinsey and Mrs. Warner. Any questions or comments? And we will have our newest board member, Heidi Anderson, to participate with us on that meeting as well. All right, Mr. Lundy, please call the roll.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Sloughman? Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mrs. Dorn?
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey?
Yes.
Motion passes. And items of information discussion. Discuss.
Sure, so items of information, so the 2022 meeting calendar, we had approved this at the last meeting, but there was some discussion among the board member of wanting to move the meetings all to the middle schools. Mr. Price, if you want to speak to that, I want to speak for you.
A couple of things with that. One, I personally find that the middle school is optimally suited for meetings, so we've got the ability to either have a big forum for a lot of attendees, or we have the ability to go normally to the meeting room there. And some of the places where we meet, the acoustics are wanting. It's difficult to hear. And also I think it would simplify whoever's going to take Josh's job over if it was just everything to conducts a meeting is stored in one place, and it's just a matter of pulling it off the stage and setting it up, or pulling it out from behind, some table over there in the meeting room at the middle school. I also have some concerns about, to put it bluntly, I don't like having just one way out of the room. With the volatility we see throughout our nation, I personally don't want to be sitting in a boardroom with no exit out the back, to put it bluntly. And so I think that basically being able to have the middle school available, we've got whatever we need there in terms of a big forum for a lot of people, and a quaint forum with an exit in the back at the media center at the middle school. So those are my thoughts. I really don't think that the St. Pierre Center is sufficient, adequate for holding any of our meetings ever. I just don't see any, I just think it's just not a good place to meet. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Other comments?
I'm just curious, is there any unintended consequences that I wouldn't think of, like undue burden on the same janitorial staff or time and time again?
I don't know if it'd be undue burden, but there would be a burden on the middle school staff to have to break down that room and set that room out every time. There's tables in there. So they take down all the tables and then put up chairs. So having it in one place, we put an extra room on that, but, I don't want that to be into the decision making. We can make it happen. The other thing, just a comment, again, the reason to come out, one of the reasons to come out to the buildings, again, something like tonight where as we're making the presentation, staff members are kind of in their own space. People get to see all the different buildings and get a flavor of all the different buildings, rather than just going to one particular building. Mr. Pritchard's points are well taken. Yeah. So, whatever the board would like to do, we can make it happen.
The reorganization meeting that takes place, the first meeting in January, has essentially one of the items to be to validate the calendar for the rest of the year. Particularly when you have a new member coming who essentially gets a say in where the meetings are held and what time and so forth. So that's,
Is that first one at the middle school?
pardon me?
Is that first one at the middle school?
First one says it's at the high school cafeteria. We could qualify that. I don't know.
I'm happy as long as we're St. Pierre Center, so.
I'm with you on the St. Pierre Center. I'm with you on the middle school being optimal. I do enjoy at least occasionally coming to the other buildings. So I would like to at least maintain, once a year, at Stephen Bell, once a year here, and once a year at the high school. I think it's important that we are in each of those buildings, and that they have an opportunity to showcase whatever they want to showcase, and sometimes that's meant field trips over the building. I know one meeting we had a field trip to the music room here.
That's great.
So I would like to maintain that and maybe not as frequently rotate it.
We could make it the second meeting that we have a quarter, we could have that at each of the buildings and all the other meetings at the middle school. So there'd be a limited number, four meetings at the schools, one at each.
Yeah, and that's fine, I'm kind of tabling the decision until the next meeting as well.
That makes sense to me. I mean, I understand, because you mentioned just the interest in showcasing the school, and this is a prime example tonight where you have teachers that are here in their own environment, able to, I think, most comfortably speak. You know, so I can certainly see the merit behind it. Quite well taken on, thank you.
Or maybe the locations within those buildings can reflect some of your thoughts.
So for our reorganizational meeting, it says it will be the Bellbrook High School cafeteria, and that's where we determined that previously we continued here, and that's when we made a decision to choose differently tonight. At this point, we'll continue to keep it at the high school cafeteria and,
Yeah, so we can make that the high school cafeteria, that's what the board would like to do, and then I could have Mrs. Woody review this particular calendar, and we could have everything at middle school except the 4 regular work sessions every quarter. That's what the board would like me to do, and have that ready for the next January board meeting.
Okay.
And also just to note that we did just have a special meeting, that meeting's at the St. Pierre Education Center. Still okay with that on January 29th. Just voted on that.
I think by definition it's open to the public, correct?
Correct.
I would prefer not to, honestly, just to be consistent with what I was saying earlier. So maybe meeting room, like the last one we had last year, it was at the media center at the middle school. I think that's just an ideal forum.
So we need to go back and change that.
Or we can change that.
change that on the 13th when we have our.
Okay, we can add that to this, we can add to this, sure.
We'll do it all at once.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Our last agenda item, this last agenda. Executive session, the board will meet in executive session to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or official under revised code 121.22, paragraph G1, to discuss with legal counsel disputes involving the public body that are subject of pending or imminent court action under revised code 121.22, paragraph G3, and for the purpose of considering employment compensation of a licensed public employee per revised code 121.22, paragraph G1. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Dorn?
Second.
Mr. Price? Mr. Lyman, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Sloughman,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mrs. Dorn,
Yes.
Mr. Kinsey,
Yes.
Mr. Price.
Yes.
Motion passes. To make a note, there may be board action after the executive session. There is none specifically planned at this point in time, but that possibility does exist. So we will.
Now, back